All right, students, we are going to try something new today. We know that taking notes is all about you understanding and wanting to make sure that you are getting the most out of your lessons. I'm going to try some video notes. I took apart your textbook. I gave you a folder with this unit in it. So you're going to use that for your notes today. We're going to do practice problems out of it. We're not going to do all the problems. So it's a great way for you to practice and get ready for those quizzes coming up, tests coming up, all that sorts of stuff. So you need to have that folder out and open. You can have your spiral next to you, but this is not going to be a numbered assignment, okay? So we need to turn to page M323. This is lesson 2, and it's called Into the Unknown. I know the page numbers at the bottom are a little weird, but it's M323. If you're not there, hit pause. Make sure you are using this as your learning experience. So if you didn't get something and you need to stop and rewind, do it. It's okay. Take the time you need. Make sure you understand before moving on. All right? So the first page of the lesson is really cool because it has the learning goals, which is everything that you need to know how to do by the end of a lesson. It also has the vocabulary, so there's words like variable and coefficient, which you should already know at this point. And there's other words that we're going to talk about, like algebraic expression and terms. There's also warm-up activities. So like I said, there's going to be a lot of example problems for you to go over in this. I won't always do them, but those are great things for you to practice to get yourself ready when we're having an assessment. So the first page, look it over. Then we're going to turn to the next page in the lesson, and it says, do you speak math at the top? And the directions are to rewrite each statement using symbols. So we're going to look at question 1, and it says 14 more than 6. So I took the words, and I wrote them out. When I look at this, I need to figure out, okay, how do I change the English into math? Math is all a language in itself. So when you see these words, how do you write them as a math expression? An expression is a math sentence with no equal sign. So I look at those words and I think, okay, I see 14. That's a number I can write. I see 6. That's a number I can write. Now, what operation am I doing with those numbers? The words more than tell me that I'm, yeah, you're supposed to tell me, whisper, little quiet. What am I supposed to do when I see more than? I hope you said add. So the expression that you want to write should be 14 plus 6. All right? Simple enough, right? Now, you didn't get it? Go back, rewind, try again. It's okay. Let's look at 3. I told you we were going to skip. So number 3 is 7 less than 13. So again, I look for my keywords. I see 7, I see 13. Okay, those are numbers. I can write them. I see less than. What operation is less than? Did you say minus or subtract? I hope you did. Now, it said 7 less than. So that means I'm going to be subtracting 7. So this one is 13 minus 7. So notice how the less than went with the 7. Okay. Let's skip down to number 6. We have 30 subtracted from 23. Okay, look for your keywords. I see 30, I see 23, so I'm going to write them down. Double check, what order should they be in? So my key term subtracted from. What's being subtracted? The 30 or the 23? Hopefully you said the 30. So your expression should be 23 minus 30. The last one we're going to do on this page is number 8. So we have the quotient of 4 divided by 12. All right, there's more words here, right? Quotient is one of those words that we know we're supposed to know it, but a lot of students end up forgetting it because we don't use it as often as we'd like to. So I see quotient and I see divided by. Oh, quotient means the answer when you divide. Oh, so I'm going to be dividing. What numbers am I dividing? 4 and 12. Think about it. Read it. Which one goes first? Do you have an answer? Don't wait for me to give it. I want you to actually have one. Hit pause if you don't know yet. Did you say 4 divided by 12? All right. So there's other examples you can try on your own time. We're going to move on, okay? So turn the page, M325, and you're at 2.1 in the lesson. So we have algebraic expressions, writing expressions with variables. So consider the quantity that changes as you think about the situation in question 1. Number 1, a school lunch costs $1.85 for each student. For each situation, write a numeric expression to determine how much money is collected. Then evaluate the expression. Numeric expression. The word numeric sounds like number. Numeric expression is a number expression, like what we were doing just before. Okay? So let's look at 1A. You have 55 students that are purchasing a school lunch. Now, I need to think, what operation am I doing? I know there's 55 kids. I know that each school lunch costs $1.85, and I need to know how much it costs altogether. So I'm going to take that 55 and I'm going to multiply it by 185. There's a couple of ways you can write this. You can use your normal x, but because we're going to start using variables, I don't want you to use that as much. When you have numbers next to parentheses, that means multiply. So you could have written it like this. You could also write the 185 on the outside and the 55 on the inside. There's one other way I forgot to write. Do you remember? When we have a number next to another number and we use a dot in between. You could have also written it like that. All right, so lots of different ways to show multiplication. Try not to use those x's anymore because we're going to use those for variables in a bit. Let's try B. 126 students purchase a school lunch. Okay, so again I have to think, what operation am I using? I know it's 126 kids. I know it's $1.85 for each lunch. For each lunch. That's a key word for me. I know it's, again, multiplication. Notice how I use those parentheses. I like the parentheses. When I've got a decimal number, it's hard to see the dot different from a decimal. That's why I like the parentheses. All right, try C and D on your own. Look at the keywords, hit pause, and come up with your answer. Do you have your answers for C and D? All right, so for C, what did you write? Hopefully you came up with 185 times 213. For D, it's also a multiplication problem. This time, we have 185 times 1,512. All right, so those are all my expressions. The directions did say to evaluate the expression. Evaluate means to solve. So I want you to go back right now, and I want you to solve each of those problems. Tell me how much it cost for all of those school lunches. Hit pause until you have your answers. You figured it out? Fantastic. All right, so let's go to number 3. We're going to skip number 2. Number 3 has a couple of key terms before it. If I skim the paragraph, I'm not going to read the whole thing out loud to you. You can do that yourself. I see variables as a key term, and I see algebraic expression. Now, before I was doing numeric expressions where it was all numbers, but an algebraic expression is an expression that has at least one variable. Variables are letters that represent numbers. All right, so I'm going to have math sentences, but instead of all numbers, I'm going to have numbers and variables, or numbers and letters. All right, so number 3 says write an algebraic expression to represent the total amount of money collected for any number of students buying school lunches. So before, I was given the number of students. I knew there were 55, there was 126, 213, and 1,512. But they want to do it for any number of students. Not just one number, any number. Well, I look at these expressions and I say, what's the same? What wouldn't be the variable? If I look at each of them, I know that there's 185 or 1.85 or $1.85 in each of these expressions. That doesn't change. So that gets multiplied by the number that does change. Well, the number that does change becomes my variable. So 185 is going to be multiplied by a number, or any number. So what I'm going to write is the algebraic expression 1.85. Now I chose to use an L. You can use any letter, as long as it's lowercase, to represent a variable. I chose L because I think it's important that you recognize there are some letters that are not good to use. X is perfect. X is the most common one you're going to find. A, B, and C are also really useful. L sucks because L looks like a 1 unless you do a cursive L. So remember that. If you're going to use L, it needs to look like mine, cursive. The other letters that are a really bad choice, S and T. S looks like 5, T looks like a plus. So try not to use those variables. Try and use different letters, okay? All right, let's turn the page to number 4. We have a number that is multiplied by a variable in an algebraic expression called a coefficient. Excuse me. So if I look at the last expression I wrote, what's the coefficient? So the coefficient in number 3, 1.85. That's the number you multiplied by your variable. Now, the rest of the questions, 5, 6, 7, they are great example problems. But I do not want to take a lot more of our class time. So practice those on your own time if you need more practice. Let's skip down. We're going to go to page M328. Okay? Let's look at C. The directions on the previous page said we needed to write algebraic expressions. All right? So I have m less than 9. Well, that kind of looks similar to my numeric expression, doesn't it? But instead of two numbers, I have a number and a variable. So look for your numbers, m and 9. All right, what am I doing with m and 9? Less than tells me, hopefully you said, subtract. I am subtracting n or m. M is the less than, so m is being subtracted. Make sure you got that. That's a tricky one. A lot of students get tripped up on that. All right, so D. We have 1/4 of a number n. All right, well, I see 1/4 and I see n. So those are my numbers. Of A. Of is a very, 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 very important key term. Of tells me multiply. All right? So I'm going to multiply 1/4 and n. There's two ways you could write this. You can write 1/4 n. Okay? That's not wrong. But I also want you to know that this is also n times 1/4. It looks different, but they're the same thing. All right? And our last example problem that we're going to try is E. Oh my goodness, E looks scary. 14 less than 3 times a number n. Attack it one step at a time, okay? So I see 14 less than. All right, I know from previous problems that means I'm going to subtract 14. All right, so I write that first. Subtract 14, right? Okay, so now I'm going to read the rest of my problem. 14 less than, check, got it, 3 times a number n. Okay, 3 times, well, times means multiply, a number n. So 3n. All right, so I write 3n. I got to put it together. I already wrote the subtraction symbol. That's it. So 14 less than 3 times a number n. Just like that. There's more to this lesson. We'll continue tomorrow. This is the end of your video notes. Again, if something didn't make sense, you need to go back, you need to review until it makes sense to you. We have other class activities. You can check the agenda on what that is. I'll talk to you later. Bye.